Thank you everyone for joining us today. I hope you're all well settled. And so we are today coming to the third session of this governance learning series on exploring innovative pathways for agri-food systems transformation to advance sustainable development goals. This learning series has been organized by 4 co-hosts within FAO, the Agri-Food Systems and Food Safety Division, Development Law Service, Governance and Policy Support Unit, and the Office of SDGs. Let me now introduce myself. My name is Dubravka Bojic. I work for, I'm Program Officer in Governance and Policy Support Unit in FAO, and I will be moderating this third and the last session, focusing on harnessing data and knowledge for sustainable agri-food systems governance. So for those who are joining us now, please just drop in the chat box where you're coming from and where you're located, or if you're with FAO, which unit you're working with. So there is really a lot to hear from our 3 panelists today, a lot to discuss, and also certainly a lot to bring with us at the end of this session. So before starting, let me just give you some housekeeping rules. So the session is being recorded, and we will make the recording available to everyone after the event. There is interpretation in English and in Spanish, so you can select the language channel using the globe icon at the bottom of your Zoom window. I invite you all to keep your videos on if you can, and your microphones muted. So unless obviously you want to take the floor during the Q&A session. And also you can use the chat box at the bottom of the Zoom screen to make comments or your questions and share relevant materials. There is also Q&A functionality to pose questions to discussants, and we may select some of them during the debate segment. And now, before I give the floor to Massimo Torero, Chief Economist at FAO, for his opening remarks, let us first say a few words about the objectives of this series and the session. So if you had the possibility to join one or both of our previous sessions, you may remember that this series was sparked by the call for submissions that we launched last year through the FSN Forum on how can FAO better support countries in addressing governance of agri-food systems transformation to make them more sustainable, inclusive, and resilient. We have received 88 contributions from different actors and all regions across the world, and have selected 9 of those cases to go a little bit more in depth and discuss through this learning series that aims at facilitating collective learning through knowledge sharing and peer-to-peer exchange, and also, of course, listen from our participants and colleagues across the world and encourage reflection on the strengths, limitations, and transformative potential of policy, legal, and governance interventions to advance transformation and change. Each of the cases that we discussed and that we will discuss in this webinar series stands out as a powerful and inspiring example of governance in action, and shows how national and local efforts can help reshape relationships, collaboration, and collective action for the better future of our planet and people. So we really truly appreciate that you've all taken the time today to join this webinar series, because obviously without your thoughts and your inputs, we will not be able to achieve our expectations for the session and the learning series. So with no further ado, let us now pass to opening remarks. Unfortunately, Massimo is not able to be with us in person today because he is on duty travel, but he did record a video message that I will kindly ask Paola to play for us now.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all. It is a pleasure to welcome you all to the third and final session of our Governance Learning Series, organized under the theme Exploring Innovative Pathways for Agri-Food System Transformation to Advance the Sustainable Development Goals. My name is Máximo Torero. I am the Chief Economist of FAO. In our April and May sessions, we have the chance to hear and explore impressive cases illustrating complex challenges facing agri-food systems today and innovative ways to address them at national and local level. In our first session, we look at how innovative governance arrangements developed in Argentina, Brazil, and Ethiopia can drive transformative changes by reshaping relationships and making spaces for learning and adaptation. In the second session, we learn about the process and the strategies in Ecuador, Mexico, and Ghana put in place to give voice to those that too often go unheard, highlighting the importance of inclusion and participation in decision-making processes. Today, we bring our series to a close with a critical topic: harnessing data and knowledge for sustainable agri-food systems governance. We are witnessing the growing promise of data-driven innovations and platforms in many countries. These tools can help increase farm efficiency, improve environmental sustainability, and ensure more equitable access to markets, including for small-scale farmers. Data play a crucial role by providing evidence base for decision-making, helping governments and other actors to better understand the interactions and trade-offs among different policy choices, thus enhancing accountability and transparency. Data and knowledge make the invisible visible and help understand what is working, what is not, and where to go next. From shaping national policies to empowering local communities, data and knowledge are cornerstone of a smart governance and transformative change. Of course, the roads to promoting valuable knowledge sharing and becoming truly evidence-based are not without challenges. Power imbalances, lack of trust, limited spaces for dialogues, data sensitivity, and uneven capacities can all hinder collaboration and collective action. Data and knowledge gaps and access inequalities remain persistent challenges. Creating spaces to connect people and to ensure that all actors, including smallholder and marginalized groups, can access, share, and use data, knowledge, and information is instrumental in our journey towards more effective, sustainable, and equitable agri-food systems. When we bring actors together, we create a space not only for sharing knowledge, but also for articulating demands, shaping priorities, and building a shared vision. This is where responsible governance happens. Today, we will hear three distinct but equally compelling stories for how leveraging data and facilitating shared knowledge among value chain actors and governments can strengthen collective action and contribute to increase food security and healthy diets and better livelihoods. Our first story comes from Kenya, where the Cooperative Alliance Kenya (CAC) represents over 5,000 agricultural cooperatives, is demonstrating how collaborative platforms can create a space for dialogue and lead increased productivity, inclusiveness, and sustainable for the dairy sector. Through the EU-funded IRTEA project, CAC is facilitating a participatory platform that brings data and knowledge to address emerging challenges in the dairy sector and promotes the use of cost-effective and farmer-friendly technology for record-keeping, market access, and information sharing among all actors of the value chain. In India, the state of Kerala is showing what is possible when decentralized data meets community participation. The pilot Kerala Food Platform is essentially a digital backbone based on traditional cooperatives with direct benefits for small-scale and marginal farmers with no or fragmented land holdings and facilitating access to markets, as well as supporting organic and agroecological practices. What makes it really powerful is that it brings farmers, consumers, banks, and local authorities together into a single digital ecosystem, ensuring data value is shared fairly while also promoting food sovereignty, improving public health, and strengthening farmer livelihoods. In New York City, from the USA, the Mayor Office of the Food Policy is leading the bold experiment in values-based procurement. Through the Good Food Purchasing Program, the city is using data collection, analysis, and sharing to evaluate institutional food buying against goals like equity nutrition, sustainability, and fair labor. It's a story of how public resources and the data that track them can be mobilized for public good, transforming supply chains and advancing transparency in one of the world's most complex and challenging urban food systems. Each of these cases bring a unique lens, but all share a common message. When data and knowledge are harnessed with purpose, when actors relate to each other, and when governance structures are open and inclusive, transformation becomes tangible. To make this session a success, I would like to encourage you all to fully engage, ask questions, share your experience, and challenge assumptions. Before we start, let me express my sincere thanks to all of you for being part of this learning journey. Your commitment to sustainable governance, to transformative systems approach, and to the SDGs has been truly inspiring. Dialogues and learning are essential, but actions are what leads to effectively promoting the situation on the ground. So thank you very much, and I really wish you a great day today and a lot of discussion. Thank you.
So with the thanks to Maximo for his opening remarks and for framing our discussion, introducing our three panelists, I would just like to refer, as he mentioned in his remarks, that each of the three cases that we will hear today brings a unique lens, but share a common message. When collected judiciously, shared equitably, and used thoughtfully, data and knowledge can indeed empower key stakeholders, inform decision-making, and thus be strong catalysts for transformation. And now, with no further ado, I'm turning to our three panelists, who will set the scene for our discussion by bringing a variety of perspectives and learning from the Indian state of Kerala to New York City via the Cooperative Alliance of Kenya. So first, I'm really honored to introduce Dr. Unikrishnan, a member secretary of the Kerala Development and Strategic Innovation Council, operating under the Department of Planning and Economic Affairs in the government of Kerala in India. Dr. Unikrishnan has over 37 years of experience spanning academia, government, and consulting, with deep expertise in e-governance and engineering. He currently leads Kerala's transition to a knowledge economy, having earned national and international recognition for his pioneering work in decentralized planning and public service innovation. Dr. Unikrishnan also brings insights from the work of the Kerala Food Platform, as we heard, as the unique example in India of a cooperative-led platform developed and managed with the support of the government of Kerala through its Development and Strategic Innovation Council, together with the Panchayat system, which is India's local decentralized governance model at the level of villages, in a national context characterized by datafication and digitalization of agri-food systems led by agri-tech corporations. The platform serves 250 farmers, 20 self-help groups serving 5,000 and more population in nearby areas with 100 and more regular customers. So Dr. Unikrishnan, welcome again. Thank you for accepting to be our panelist today. Could you please tell us a little bit more about what types of data and services are offered through the platform, and how does it benefit and empower small and marginal farmers? And also, for authentic learning, please do not sugarcoat or emphasize only the successes, but also share with us a little bit about the challenges that you faced and are facing in the platform governance, and how do you address them? Thank you, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dubravska. I'm extremely honored to be at this session. I will quickly run to the question which has been raised, basically on the data types which are and the services which are being offered through the platform. Now, coming to the data sets, essentially, we had captured digitizing of an integrated farming model in a location, which was spearheaded by the cooperative bank in the locality. The cooperative bank had provided a credit service to the producers in the locality, which essentially consisted of marginal farmers who were organized into self-help groups. And the process of the cultivation is primarily because this particular area is sandy area, and it was not a traditional vegetable cultivating area. And so for the last 20 years, they had been practicing organic agriculture and, more importantly, integrated farming. One speciality of the location is that they have saline tolerant highly saline tolerant variety of a local breed of rice, which is being promoted along with the prawn culture in this location. There is a uniqueness of this particular location. And this particular collection of farmers who were organized by the cooperative bank was looking forward to a mechanism for marketing and also for managing their producers. Now, one of the important points is that we have been able to, the production of the locality is around 40 metric ton of this special rice, which we call Pokali rice, 70 metric tons of fruits and vegetables, and around 800 liters of milk being produced daily. They had devised a mechanism of transactions, which by word of mouth, being organic, had traceability and had fetched more money than that is available in the open market because the product was organic. What we did was essentially we brought them onto a platform using the mechanism provided by the bank, because the bank had organized all these people through a credit society mechanism. And we used that to do the digitization. One of the issues that we wanted to address is quite often when we go for a digital platform, in Kerala, we have got quite a lot of digitization initiatives. Quite often what happens is that a large chunk of data is created and then updation becomes a huge challenge. So we have been very clear that we will not get into a large chunk of data, and we will get in only the data which is most important for the transaction and can be validated. So the land parcel information was updated, the ownership information was updated. Beyond that, our focus was basically on the transaction. What is being produced in the locality, what is coming to the market, what is going into the transaction, and the details were captured on the digital platform. So this was one of the most important things that we had done. We avoided unnecessary the capture of data so that the system can be easy to maintain and support it. So that is one of the things that we did. Then another important innovation that we did is that the traceability component was implemented by using a simple QR code linked to the procurement, procurement process. The package of materials, the materials which were packaged and given had a QR code, and the QR code embedded the details of the farmer, the land parcel from which it was originated. This gave in a different level of credibility to the product. The original product, which was distributed in a very small hyper-local location, the possibility of bringing the platform was that it can be connected to the urban centers nearby, where there was a regular chunk of the clients who had this facility of authentication of the traceability. They could avail using a very simple mobile application to obtain the products. And so basically it's a win-win situation for the customer. Safe to eat product is available. For the customer in the urban area, safe to eat product is available. And for the farmer, better price is available. Now, the issue that we are facing is coming to the challenge. We are facing challenges in terms of scaling up of this program. Scaling up of this program because the departments, this is a local initiative with the local government and the cooperative. And we are trying to bring together such groups of farmers in different localities through the cooperation department to take it forward to a new scale. So we are now linking it with a major campaign which we have now launched called Vijnana Kerala. Vijnana Kerala is Knowledge Kerala, which is a transition of Kerala to the knowledge economy, which is bringing in a variety of entrepreneurs and farmers and job seekers in the locality, in the Kerala state, entire state, we are bringing together as a part of this campaign. This requires a huge educational process and empowering process. And so we are making use of that mechanism to scale it up. Scaling is indeed a challenge because it requires empowerment and people to come and collect the data, provide the data, come onto the platform. They should actually understand the benefits of that and the value of that. Then only they will actually come into such a process. So that's the challenge which we are facing. We have been able to run the pilot for the last 2 years. We have now stabilized on the product and systems. We have come up with an architecture. We are going to scale it up now. And scaling had been one of the major important challenges that we're facing. And we are trying to address that through a massive campaign, bringing together the cooperative bodies.
Thank you. Thank you very much for this, and thank you for really sticking to the time. This gave us really a very interesting snapshot of the value of having such a platform and offering to farmers the different services like organic certification, to have a better prices, credibility of products for access to markets, but also protecting data. And you also mentioned the challenge of scaling up, indeed, which is very often the challenge. We know that at the lower level, in a smaller locality, at the smaller territories, it can be a bit easier to work. And but this brings us the powerful example of how data value creation and accessibility can actually benefit small and marginal farmers. Now, obviously, bringing the ownership of farmers and building on cooperatives is very, very valuable and very useful, and can actually bring this additional value in engaging people and farmers together in the process of change. But as you said, the campaign of information and sensibilization is really important to democratize access to data, but also challenges in collecting data. So thank you again for sharing this experience. And I think we will hear now from Kenya and also from New York City, where I think also the two other cases do share some of your challenges too, and some of the learnings. So let us now move to Africa, to Kenya, and continue in this spirit of cooperative movement and collective action, this time focused on dairy sectors. So I'm really very pleased to welcome to us Ms. Judith Bamuyu Ntinga, Program Manager with the Cooperative Alliance of Kenya. Judith has over 30 years of experience in the cooperative sector, specializing in project design, implementation, and farmer empowerment. She holds degrees and certifications from institutions in Kenya, Denmark, and Israel, and has successfully led multiple international development projects in the agriculture cooperative space. Judith will share today the experience of the Cooperative Alliance of Kenya in the AirTea project on leveraging the benefits of multi-stakeholders partnership, this time to support, in particular, rural women and youth in the dairy sector. Through this project, the Alliance helped to establish the Dairy Innovation Platform that connects actors across the dairy value chain and serves as a dynamic knowledge-sharing mechanism, similarly as to what we have seen with the food platform in Kerala, helping to strengthen the capacities of smallholder farmers, in particular focusing on women and youth, and also their participation in decision-making processes. So Judith, could you please tell us a little bit how did the Dairy Innovation Platform brought together different actors across the value chain? And how did it empower women and youth smallholder farmers to better access agricultural services and improve their livelihoods? And also, how does the Alliance work contribute to strengthening governance and collective action in agricultural sector in Kenya? So once again, please do also share the challenges that you're facing in your work and how do you address them. And also thank you to stick to the 7-8 minutes. Over to you, Judith.
Thank you very much for this opportunity to make a presentation regarding the multi-stakeholder partnership the empowerment the women and the youths gained through the experience, and I also touch on the challenges. To begin with, it's important for us to know who CAK is. CAK stands for Cooperative Alliance of Kenya. It's the national apex organization for Kenya cooperative movement, being first in Africa, 7th in the world. It has a membership of 25,000 registered cooperatives, which comprise of national cooperative organizations, cooperative unions, primary cooperative societies. So the individual members are over 14 million, and we have been able as a sector to mobilize 730 billion Kenya shillings, or 30% of the national savings. The movement creates employment to over 600,000 persons. And among the 25,000 registered cooperatives, we have over 5,000 agricultural cooperatives with a membership of 1.8 million.
Judith, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Could you please just make the screen bigger so the participants can see it better? Just the full screen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes,
thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So the agricultural sector covers coffee, dairy, pyrethrum, livestock, cereals, cotton. The women membership are close to 360,000. So, sorry, I've lost the screen.
We can see it. We have the screen with the actors brought together through the platform.
Yeah. So, how we brought the partners whom we are working with is we had a partnership agreement with key partners within the dairy value chain. And those key partners were Kenya Agricultural Livestock Research Organization to give information regarding the technologies on animal feeds to improve on animal productivity. Then we had Kenya Animal Genetic Resources Center to help give empowerment on the breeding process of the animals. We had also Simlo Seeds, which was a private organization providing access to seeds. Then we also engaged new Kenya cooperative creameries as marketers of the dairy. And then we had the cooperative bank arm, the cooperative consultancy bank insurance intermediary to offer financial access to the women and youth. And then when we signed the partnership agreement, the agreement was to facilitate the transfer of technologies, to give opportunity for innovations and access to markets, finance, fodder seeds, access to farm input extension service, and dairy training. And we needed to do all that in order to address the challenge of raw production, because according to the baseline survey, our farmers were producing 7 liters per cow per day, and we needed to increase to 10 liters per cow per day. That's how we came up with the multi-stakeholder partnership. And then in the same, after the coming together as partners, we had to start a dairy innovation platform through a meeting where we brought our partners and also the national and county governments together. And therefore we were able to create an interactive platform where more than the mentioned sector players were engaged. Then that one I've already discussed. Then we move on. As we were using our partners, we, on the data sharing and data correction, we identified some digital applications that were already available within the environment, and therefore to ensure the women and youth were able to use the applications, we had to identify 30 women and youth, although 29 participated, and they were trained on the Carrot digital application, which is an application containing some training sessions that were relevant to women and youth. Also, the digital application contains advisory services and also ability to keep records, because the farmers and youth were trained on all these things, on how to keep records. So through the Carrot digital application, they are able to keep records at the farm level. Then we also had Carrot Kenya Agricultural Observatory Platform, KEOP. It gives insights to farmers on weather, agronomics, and analytics. Therefore, farmers are able to make good decisions in relationship to the climate change. Then the youths were enabled, they were facilitated with a tablet to the coordinator, the youth coordinator, and the youth coordinator used the tablet to keep dairy farmer records for all the farmers within a certain dairy cooperative on the milk delivered in an Excel sheet. And then through the same tablet, they are able to do payment calculation for the gross payment, and also to do the monthly rate of payment, and to issue monthly statements to the farmers so that they are able to know how their production went and whether there were mistakes in the calculations. Therefore, farmers are very happy because of the introduction of the digital applications and how to use use recording and get instant information and prompt payment from the introduction of the data correction. Then training that they were trained by the partners, the consortium partners, and other private sector players, they were able to improve the cow structure, which led to increased milk production and productivity, because the quality of milk improved, the cow comfort was enhanced, and mastitis was reduced. That was one achievement. The other achievement is that traditionally, farmers were feeding cows on only napier grass and maize stovers. That is carbohydrates alone. So we were able to introduce the protein plants with the help of our partners and through the technology that they had already researched. Therefore, this was a connection between a farmer and a researcher. So the researcher were very happy to be able to apply the knowledge from the research institutions to the farmer. So that relationship between a farmer and a researcher was very profitable, because some of the products that were introduced were plant protein like oats, lucerne, green leaf, desmodium, sweet potato vine, and this encouraged the farmers very much, because once they fed these products to the cows, the productivity increased more than doubled from 8 liters to 15 to 20 liters. Also, dairy keeping, there was reduction on cost of milk production through the use of quality fodder. It reduced the consumption of commercial feeds. Then the heifer lifespan greatly improved. They used to die at 3 months. Now the survival rate is very high. And then the heat detection improved tremendously. Before, the cows were waiting for 4 to 5 years. Now every year the cows are able to receive the improved and enhanced semen. And therefore, there is an increase of herd size. There is increase in the milk delivered to the cooperatives. And for the youths, they are generating income through making of compost manure and silage making. And therefore, they are getting a source of livelihood. Then on policy dialogue, which is my last slide, Cooperative Alliance of Kenya has been very proactive in terms of the policy dialogue on different value chains and different sectors of the national economy, because the cooperatives, they cover all sectors of the national economy. In Kenya, we were able to get a new constitution in 2010, and a lot of services were being offered by the national government, and all functions were now assigned to the county governments. And therefore, that meant that the cooperative law that was used to govern the whole country was now to be divided into national. What will the national government do, and what would the county governments do? So a lot of lobbying has been done by Cooperative Alliance of Kenya, with meetings with the county executive committee members from the counties, the Council of Governors, which is a national forum for all county governments, the Kenya Law Reform Commission, the county parliamentary assemblies. And therefore, over the time, from the time the constitution was formed to date, there are a number of things that were lobbied with CAK at the forefront. And these were very critical because they could impact on the agricultural sector. And therefore, the agricultural cooperatives are now being supported through the establishment of a standalone ministry of cooperatives. Yeah, there are position papers that are made regarding maybe the dairy sector, the coffee sector. We have papers that have been done, and the ministry is taking action on improving the agricultural cooperatives and their welfare for the benefit of the farmer. Then our cooperative university, beforehand it was a college, it was awarded the status of a charter and was awarded land. Also, reduction of corporation tax for cooperative housing sector, and enjoyment of mortgage relief by cooperatives, because other mortgage institutions were benefiting more than cooperatives. Then the process of the development of a national cooperative policy was started in order to review the former policy to a policy that is talking to the existing environment, the new environment. Therefore, the process took a number of years, but in 2020, we now have a national cooperative policy for 2021 to 2030. And then the cooperative bill to operationalize the national cooperative policy is undergoing debates in the Senate, and we are waiting for feedback. And in the cooperative bill, that's where it talks of restructuring the Cooperative Alliance of Kenya. And one of the restructuring that will be made is the formation of federations. And among the federations to be formed is a dairy federation. And therefore that one will be a very good platform for the upscaling of the multi-stakeholder partnership and dairy innovation platform, so that as soon when it is national, other dairy cooperatives in other counties not covered by ART project will benefit. And therefore the challenge that we are having is the upscaling of the dairy innovation platform. Already we have the platform at each and every cooperative, but it's not adequate because that is at local level. We need a national face. And therefore, if we can get support for, to facilitate mobilization and sensitization for the registration of our dairy federation, we will be able to appreciate. I thank you very much. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Judith, for this very interesting presentation. And we have heard from you also about the scaling up challenge, and as we heard a little bit in India. So again, what I heard is the relevance of combining technical and governance and institutional work. Yes, collecting data, making them available, connecting research to farmers, and facilitating partnerships, bringing different actors together to empower small-scale farmers, women and youth in this case, and strengthen their technical but also soft skills, boosting the milk production and helping them with better agricultural techniques, and promoting thus also their better livelihoods. So I've also heard about the need for the sustainability of the platform and the work of the Alliance in terms of policy influence, which is really interesting, and the achievements that you managed to do in terms of the policy and the cooperative bill, the establishment of the Ministry of Cooperatives in Kenya, and also your future plans in terms of forming a new working innovation platform to the formation of National Dairy Federation. So thank you so much once again. And we will have a chance to discuss a little bit more some of the aspects through the Q&A sections. But now let me go to the New York City, to the municipal level this time, to delve into the good food purchasing framework that contributes to transparency and better nutrition at the municipality level, as well as to the local economy around the New York City. So I really have the pleasure to introduce you our third and last speaker of today, Mrs. Milagros de Hoz, the Director of Policy and Strategy at the New York City Mayor's Office of Food Policy. In her role, Ms. de Hoz leads the design and implementation of citywide food policy initiatives, coordinating across different agencies and stakeholders to drive progress on food and climate, public health, regional food systems, and nutrition equity. She manages a growing team, builds durable partnerships, and ensures policies are grounded in research and impact. The Good Food Purchasing Framework stands out as another inspiring and compelling example, as it seeks again to tackle multiple challenges within the agri-food systems at the city level this time, using the whole government approach and promoting public health, environmental sustainability, and the local economy. It also stands out for its achievement in terms of working with actors that are not usually involved in food and nutrition discussions, as we will hear from Milagros, certainly. So Milagros, thanking you again for being with us today. Could you please tell us how does the program actually applies the whole government approach, and what kind of data are available, and what are on the dashboard, and what are the program's economic, environmental, and social impacts? Also, as with other speakers, could you also tell us a bit about the challenges and the key trade-offs, and how do you address them while implementing the framework? Thank you, and over to you, Milagros.
Thank you, Dubravka and team, and Stenia for having me and finding our experience here in New York useful for others. We just to share a little bit of background about our office. We at the Mayor's Office of Food Policy in New York City, we're really tasked to coordinating everything that happens around food in the city, both in procurement, infrastructure, markets, and everything in between. Something that we take very seriously is trying to make sure that there's coherence among all policies and programs that touch on food, so that we can really enhance and execute on the co-benefits that are available in the food system that is so wonderful and vast. And something that we do a lot in our office is also incubate new ways of doing work. A lot of times, agencies that are at the forefront of this work, their staff, their teams are really focusing on the daily tasks. And we have kind of like a front row seat to what's going on, and are lucky enough to have some time and that really expansive view on how some things could be better. So this is a journey that started 6 years ago when our office took a look at what were some of the expenditures, how we were buying food. We serve food free of charge in 7 different settings. This includes all New York City public schools that have about 900,000 kids, public hospitals that serve people that are sick and staying overnight. We have older adults or senior centers where folks go to have some programming activities during the day and they receive a meal. We also have carceral prison system in New York City. So there's this wide setting in which we feed people. And we started to think, how about we know we're going to spend X amount of money every year on food. How about we really see this as an investment in the type of food system that we want to see? So, but really at the time, we had no idea what we were buying and from who and in what quantities. So we really needed to start with data. And we partnered with a great advocacy organization that is based in the West Coast of the US called the Center for Good Food Purchasing. They have expertise in public food procurement. And they help us onboarding 2 of the biggest agencies, that is New York City Public Schools and the hospital system, to try to start to tease out what are the foods that we're actually buying, who we're buying that from, and in what quantities. We soon realized that there were many other agencies, like I mentioned, Department of Corrections, Department for the Aging, that there were also big players in the food system. And overall, everybody combined, we have a city that spends $500 million in food every year. And I'm sure that that is an underestimation because, again, speaking of data aren't perfect. We have data completion of about 71% as of now, and we're always trying to get that at the highest level possible. So why is this a whole government approach? Because if you imagine, the experience of a kid walking into a school cafeteria, there's a set menu that is set by nutritionists that look at, different health components, what is adequate for a kid of that age to have in terms of sodium, fiber, sugar, and they put together very creatively different types of menus. Then you have a procurement team, like the contracts team, that makes sure that the food actually gets to the school kitchens, and they work with supply chain actors. They make sure that the distribution actually happens. We have hundreds of schools in New York City that they all need to get food distributed on time. Then when that food gets in, a lot of times it's not ready to eat. So we have hundreds and hundreds of cooks that transform food items into actual meals that are then being served, sometimes by them and sometimes by other actors that are food service providers. And finally, we have the teachers and the whole education community. So this is the setting in schools, but you can imagine that in corrections, in hospitals, in older adult centers, you have kind of like the same amount of actors working together to put a meal in front of a client. What is really important for us is if we want to change what we're buying, we need to engage every single one of these actors, because the contracts team is going to have to procure different foods. The nutrition team, if we want to make change, that we really focus on adding more minimally processed plant items in the menu. Sometimes like the diet in the US is heavy in ultra processed foods, heavy in meat, and that has a lot of like downstream effects to high rates of chronic disease among children and among all populations. So we really wanted to use this opportunity to really improve health, improve sustainability of the food that we buy, and also try to make a dent on the social impact, both that this could have on the businesses that contract with the city, and also, to my point earlier, or of the staff that are cooking the meals in the city. And we really couldn't do this alone. I mentioned a lot of like teams inside the agencies, but it was key to have the mayor's sign off that this Good Food Purchasing initiative is something that was going to be established in the city and that was a priority. So through an executive order, we got really the political support and momentum to get this initiative adopted citywide. We also needed a data partner. Our team, is a very small team. We didn't have the capacity to go out and collect data on our own. So we hired the Center for Good Food Purchasing to go through invoices, to work with the contracting team, to work with the suppliers to understand what is the food that we're buying and what can we know about that. The speakers earlier were talking a little bit about traceability and source determination. That is really important to really understand who we're doing business with. So we actually yesterday just had a meeting with all the agencies and a new data vendor that will be collecting our data. Before we used to do it annually, and it was a year lagged. So, government, it can take a while to get data or get our ducks in a row. Now we're shifting into a model where we're getting quarterly data, which is going to be amazing because it's really going to allow us to make changes on the fly and really address issues when we see them. So the key, I would say, impacts that we've had so far since fiscal year 2019, and when I say fiscal year, it's July 2018 to June 2019. That was the first year we were able to collect meaningful data. We have been able to really increase our local spend. So we were really interested in seeing, are we generating economic activity in the state of New York? So we define local as, does the business that whether grow, process, or distribute the food, is it based in New York City? And we went from spending $76 million in 2019 to $193 million in 2023. So this was a big jump. And I'll get back to the definition of local. What does it mean for a city like New York? We also want to do business with small minority women-owned businesses. We're able to almost double. This portion is still very small, but we're able to double the amount of businesses, small businesses that we do business with. And this is really important. And this honestly required a lot of technical assistance. As you would imagine, contracting with an institution can be very taxing. There's a lot of rules, regulations, insurance. It's not easy. So we realized that small businesses require some extra support to understand and navigate this. And there's been some agencies like the Department of Homeless Services, like our public schools, that have dedicated a lot of time into providing that technical assistance to minority and women-owned business. And I think where we've seen like the biggest jump when we think about sustainability of our food system is reducing the carbon emissions associated with our food. So since 2019, we've seen a 29% decrease on our greenhouse gas emissions on the total food spend. And then when we look at per plate, that we measure that as 1,000 calories, we've seen a reduction of 44%. So again, this is like really good news, is keeping us going. But again, it's not without decisions and trade-offs that we have to take into account every single day. So just to mention a few and to be very transparent to Dubravka's request of like just also mention what you're struggling with, what hasn't really worked. We are looking at trade-offs. So we have a partnership with Cornell University that is looking at what would happen if we, for example, shift and buy all our beans from the state of New York. Is that supply chain even available? What needs to happen? Would this actually take over the market and there may be no more beans for other areas of New York because we're such a big purchaser? Also in the reality of like food inflation, tariffs, food cost is a big component. So we can't be blind of that. At the same time, we realize that the cheapest food is not always the best food. So how can we use the budget that we have in a creative way to get nutritious food and food of better quality? So here's where the menuing and the nutrition team comes into play, and they just really do a juggling act in trying to create nutritious meals for a low price. Similarly, a city like New York City and managing contracts, it is much easier to manage one large contract than a lot of small contracts. So this is something that our procurement team is constantly dealing with, and we need to add more staff, add capacity. There are a lot of networks. Luckily, FAO is leading one with Luana Swanson on public food procurement, and like really looking at the tools that we can use to transform that. And then going back to data, a lot of times those smaller actors in the food system are honestly very busy. They don't have the staff, they don't have the capacity to share their data with us. But there are great stories sometimes in those small actors. And we have struggled to try to get some data out of those. That again, maybe it's not like hard data, it's not pallets of rice, but it is other stories. So with this new partnership in data collection, we really want to tailor our data collection to what our suppliers and partners can give us. Some of them may be able to give us like, which farm this is coming from, and others may be able to give us like a little less data, but we don't want to miss those stories because they're really telling the story of the work that we're trying to do, that is like using our big procurement capacity to really shift the food system, or at least to send the signal to the market that we do care about healthy food, food that can have a big economic and social impact in the region, and food that can be really in harmony with the planet. So I'll leave it at that, and then just happy to answer any questions that you all have. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Milagros, for the inspiring story, and also for being honest about the challenges and different trade-offs. And I very much liked what you said, that the colleagues in different agencies with which you work are incubating new ways of doing work. And this is really, I think, what we are all trying to do, and to find new ways to be innovative and to be in line with all our objectives, be it economic, environmental, and social. So I also heard the importance of the political support to implement such an initiative that in a very complex urban food systems, and to use and collect the data and knowledge to trace and improve public food procurement, but also the challenges that you mentioned in terms of contracting procedures, be it for small businesses or for public institutions, and also for balancing the healthier public food procurement and associated costs, which obviously is not an easy exercise, but we can see that it is possible, at least to a certain extent, and that is very much inspiring and useful to hear. So yes, thanks again. So now, thank you to all of you, to all our three speakers and dear participants. Now it's time for questions and answers, and also for sharing your own thoughts and insights from what you from what you've heard. So let us know what stands out or what resonates with what you've heard. Can you see some common issues or challenges or learnings, lessons coming from this compared to what you are currently engaged in? So yes, please, floor is open. We do have a couple of questions. And perhaps we can start with the one that comes from Ethiopia, and from Mr. Tekele, who was actually presenting the case and the experience of Ethiopia's case on Sequota Declaration. So I don't know, Mr. Tekele, would you like to make your question directly to Mr. Unikrishnan? I've seen that you wrote actually to him, or if you want me to read your question, as you prefer. Perhaps you would like to take the floor directly. Please go ahead.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go
Okay,
ahead.
okay. My question is, while I was working in the coffee sector, one of the critical problem was just to prepare organic coffees, because, there is a trade-off, especially while you are trying to produce organic coffee. At the same time, there are some trade-offs, like, for example, you don't use insecticides, and you don't use also fertilizer. So as a result, there is a reduction in productivity. So when we compare, the costs, that we are incurring, as well as the benefits that we get from the buyers, especially related to premium. The premium is so very small, so that, we are not able to cover our costs. So we are forced to shift to stopping, producing organic coffees and start producing other types of coffee. So how do you address, especially in Indian context, how do you address such type of coffee? That is my question. Thank you.
I do agree that the question which has been raised is extremely important, because the price premium that is available for organic products, it can be substantive only if there is a mechanism for traceability and verifiability of the claim. Now, a premium price is not possible because what is happening is that many producers claim the product to be organic, and the process of certification is rather weak. And so ultimately what happens is that we get to compare. It is very difficult. We get a product and which is something else which is coming as organic. It is camouflage that's organic. So people don't have trust in the organic produce, and they're not ready to pay a premium for that. That is quite often what happens. So if we are, that is the reason why we have brought in traceability as a very important point. Number one, we have been able to, this particular area that we were farming had been traditionally a non-vegetable area. And so for this reason, there was no huge change management issues which we had to address. The farmers had gone into organic because they don't have a legacy of quite a lot of having used high chemical fertilizer and pesticide-based farming was not the number one. Number two, integrated farming was a mechanism which was available because there are multiple sources. It is not only the monocrop which comes in. There is a backup mechanism of some other crop also coming in. So the farmers had a mechanism of getting some revenue from the dairy, some revenue from the aquaculture, which were all sort of adding up to the overall revenue. And because of that integrated farming, they were getting better revenue for each segment. And this was a major achievement that we could bring with the traceability and also the plan. I think I have answered your question.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for answering. And now we also have another question from our participants from Ghana, Green Label, Mr. Harry Bleponi, to all the speakers. So Harry, would you like to come in and make your questions, or would you prefer us to read it?
Okay, good morning, everyone. I just want to know if the data of the various presentations that we have just heard are made use of by government agencies for planning and development purposes. How do their data find their way into government or national data systems? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Harry. So how does the data find their way to national planning and development purposes? So perhaps we can start with Judith. Would you like to react? Your mic, please. You're muted.
This is a very good question regarding the use of data. For now, the data that has been collected is being used for decision-making process at the cooperative level. Maybe moving forward, we can cascade the data correction, the data usage to the other stakeholders for planning and development. Thank you.
Judith, while you're answering the questions, we also actually have another question for you specifically. So it relates to the Calpo digital application, and the participant would like to know if it can be used also by other countries.
That's a very good question, and I know it can, because the Caro digital platform is an online application, so other countries can be able to use. Thank you.
Thank you. Perhaps you can share with in the chat the reference to the application so that our participants can have a look. Milagros, could you react also on the question concerning the how the data and the work that the program is doing in New York City comes to the national planning and development purposes, if this is something that can be also, again, scaled up from the city level up?
Yeah, just happy to answer that. I think that the way this movement has spread out in New York City, it has been through whether municipalities or even like school districts, so even like a smaller geography. But there are, national convenings where we share experiences. We have done also some collective advocacy. So there are some national programs that provide food for schools, older adult centers, or elder childhood. And they have very strict rules that there is that basically you have to buy the cheapest food. So I know that some colleagues in Europe have had similar problems in providing allowance for regional preference, under EU law that's sometimes not seen as something desirable. But we have fought against some legislation at the state level that would basically prohibit any municipality to put any requirements on food beyond what the federal government allows. So I think it's right now, to be honest, is more of a pushback that I don't see a current window of opportunity to expand this work at the federal level, but it is expanding at the city level all across the city, all across the US. I would also say that very briefly that we were really active on trying to pass legislation. To Judy's point, it's like sometimes legislation is so important at the state level that will allow public institutions to procure food in a different way. So again, as of now, you have all these different nodes of action. Eventually, I hope we will have a window where we can scale this up and bring it to a national level. Most importantly, because in the US, there are two agencies that are the biggest buyers of food. That is the Department of Defense and USDA, that is the Department of Agriculture. So not right now, but we're not losing hope. And hopefully, many years of data and impact will really help support our claims.
Thanks for that. And there is another question that is very much connected to this one, that is asking what are the future visions of the program on the use of the data collected. For example, the GHG accounting of the food sources and data backing of procurement seems really revolutionary. But the person is wondering how the influence of the data produced is seen to be expanded in the near future. So you already responded a little bit, but perhaps if you can just give a few more insights more specifically around the GHG data and the environmental impact.
Yeah, happy to share that we have partnered with World Resource Institute. They have a group they call Cool Food, and this is a pledge that cities or companies actually do to reduce their food-related greenhouse gas emissions by 25%. So we signed that pledge many years ago, and we are in track to achieving that reduction. But we really don't want to stop there. We want to see kind of like and have the evidence to show the connection between food, climate, and environment, but sometimes it's not that obvious. You know, in COP is usually all about energy utilities, not so much about what role and what really opportunities the food system can bring to the climate space. But something that we're also working on, because we understand that how important it is to localize, you know, like the previous speakers discussed, how important it is to localize the work, the impact, the content. You can't just have like this brush strokes of like what work in New York, it's going to work here, or the impact that it had in New York is going to be the same replicated somewhere else. So we are working, like I briefly mentioned, with Cornell University on a project that is going to look at a mission specific for our region to try to look under the hood, like not just about greenhouse gas emissions, but maybe at like crop biodiversity, water quality, air quality, so other environmental attributes that we are interested in, and we know they make up like the bigger story. So we hope to have those maybe share some of that in October. We have a group going to the Milan Urban Food Policy Pact meeting. And then next year is when this project is going to culminate. So we hope we'll have a lot more data and information to share with folks interested.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So going back to India, perhaps if you could also react to the question concerning the use of the data that you have on the platform for national planning and development purposes from the state of Kerala to the federal level, or also you mentioned the scaling up is one of the challenges. But perhaps if you can just develop a little bit more around that, potentially going federal, or how some of these data and the results from the work of the platform can inform policy decisions. Yeah. Thank you.
Essentially, what we have done is right now we have done the POC, and out of the POC, quite a lot of insights in terms of the equity and the sustainability that is emerging from the model of the collective farmers coming through the cooperative movement to organize this particular activity is the insight that we have got. It is part of a wider campaign for safe to eat food in Kerala, because Kerala imports quite a lot of the vegetable and other produce from the neighboring states, where there is a high level of pesticide and adulteration is coming into this because of additives. And this is a very serious threat to the health of the community. So it is as a part of this campaign that we had undertaken this pilot project, and it has come out as a sort of a viable model whereby a farmers collective through traceability can get a premium price and can actually afford to have an organic process in place. So that is a model that we have done. That policy insight has gone, and that is why we call it the Kerala platform. The Kerala Food Platform. Kerala is the name of the federal state where we are going to scale up the entire program. And so this has already become part of, this has been accepted by the government of Kerala as a sort of a program which is going to be scaled up. We are only waiting for building up smaller units, and then connecting that that process is all that is going to happen. So it has actually been imbibed into the policy as a sort of an equitable and sustainable model, and where technology and innovation around the traceability process can make a big change in the livelihood of the farmers on the one hand, and also on the health of the people who are buying the produce. So I hope that in the coming 1 or 2 years, we will be able to scale up the entire project, and that will give us quite a lot of insights and much more in-depth understanding on how to handle such levels of data using very small, easy-to-use technological innovations.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that. Very, very interesting, and we look forward to learning about it when it happens. So now I would like to call Laura De Mateis. Laura, I've seen you had a couple of questions for our speakers. So I don't want to put you on the spot, but as you wrote, perhaps it's you would like to make the questions yourself. Thank you. Over to you.
Of course. Thank you, Dubravka, and thanks to all the presenters for the very insightful presentations. My question to both the colleagues from India and Kenya is kind of along the same lines. So I would like to understand how this data is helping shift into a more inclusive decision making in a way. And so for Judith, for example, I would like to know if you can speak more about the connection, the relationship between researcher and farmer. You said it's productive. So I would like to know why do you think it's productive and how did it support women using data for better decisions on the cows? And for the colleague in India, similarly, like I wanted to understand a bit better the role of farmers in decision making, probably through the cooperative boards, how they are diverse, how they have influence on data collected, and so on. Thank you so much to both.
Judith, would you like to start?
Yeah, thank you very much for that question regarding the connection of researchers with farmers. The practice currently in Kenya is that research organizations, they carry out a lot of research on different things and they have all that information. It's in their office. They do not have networks to access farmers on a regular basis, maybe only on occasions when they organize exhibitions and expos. That's the time farmers access the information. But on this part, how we were able to have them at the ground is through partnership, the multi-stakeholder partnership. We included them to be part of a consortium partnership of 5 organizations, including Cooperative Alliance of Kenya, that is the breeders, that is Kagrik, the marketer, New KCC, the financiers, cooperative consultants, COP consultancy, bank assurance, intermediary, and now CK. Yeah. So when now we engage the planning, we did the planning together, and we received a lot of information from the researcher when it came to planning and executing the capacity building to women and youth. And that connection was not there before. And that led to farmers a change of attitude, because they were feeding cows with only carbohydrates and they thought that was enough. They didn't know that cows require proteins. And therefore, when fodder crops were introduced with protein content, there was immediate impact. That is, the productivity increased, doubled, the survival rate of heifers was highly enhanced, and the rate of insemination, the acceptance of semen by the dairy animals was enhanced. So instead of missing 4 years, now every year a farmer is increasing the herd. Yeah, so it was important to it's important for researchers to be very close to the farmers, and it's not happening everywhere. So we are losing a lot of opportunity, because farmers without information, they are still dependent on subsistence farming. But farmers with information, they are able to transform to commercial farming. Thank you.
Thank you, Judith. Mr. Unikrishnan, would you like to react on this question around partnerships and research farmers connection?
Yeah, this is extremely important. We also had a few partnerships. In fact, I had not spelled out very clearly. the platform itself was built through a startup. The startup, a local startup, which was promoted by an IT company called Suntech. It was involved in an earlier project in Dubai, where they had worked on the UAE food platform, where they had tried out a local model for transactions. And we adapted that product to the local conditions. So that's why we had come in. And our partnership was basically with the cooperative bank and also the farmer self-help group and with the local government. These were the sort of partners that had come in. And we ourselves position ourselves in the triple helix as a research academic body within government. And so we had brought in the research and the innovation practices. Now, as to the second question on how the data was being used for decision making in cooperative bodies, I think in the cooperative bodies was also another question which Laura had raised. So, as to the first question, the research insight had come from us, and we were trying to actually sort out a real problem. The problem was basically how to address the safe to eat issue, where the clients are not getting safe to eat food, where some farmers are producing certain produce, how to do the bridging. And that's how we actually built in the platform and tried a win-win situation for both as a part of the platform through the cooperative organization. So that was the research problem that we addressed and we tried to solve. Now, coming to how the cooperative banks, we have two types of things that we are dealing with. One is a niche product, which I told you, the salt, the saline tolerant type of rice, which is not a product with low shelf life. But we had also low shelf life products like milk and also vegetables. So we were trying to see how a mix of such niche products and a segment of products can be brought onto the platform, and how we can create a mechanism of hyper-local distribution and use, and also try to scale up with generic produce things moving across the state and the low shelf life products going around the state. That is one of the challenges that we are going to make. The insight that we have been able to get and which has actually struck the system is, number one, credit is the most important thing, and that is the single factor which has been the critical point in ensuring that the transactional data can be captured. So the bank was the ownership of the bank in the whole process was a very critical component. So that is one of the insights that we had got. And we are trying to scale up the models again around cooperatives to the cooperative bank at the center. I think that is a very important thing for us. So this insight is now being shared to other banks, and we are trying to develop scaling up of that around similar farmer bodies and trying to use this model to work with insights.
Thank you. Perhaps just on this last point, if I may, the idea to use the same model for other crops, and you had mentioned vegetables that have a lot of pesticides or fertilizers, etc. Would you use the same platform, or would you create different platforms? How would you just enlarge the platform, the food platform that exists?
I think I would definitely like to, because the platform is very generic. It has a catalog where produce are available and then traceability. That's all. It's very simple. We are not made it complicated. I'm not quite sure for the case of coffee, which my Ethiopian friend had raised. We have a similar project of coffee farmers in Wayanad, where we are trying to get in international buyers for premium coffee, which is organic. That is what we are trying to do. I'm sure that we will be able to extend the same model to all the platforms, but of course, the stakeholders will be different. And being a digital platform, it is possible for me to have international buyers coming in, local buyers coming in, and things like that. And so you can make multiple circuits. You can have a hyper-local circuit handling produce depending on the shelf life. You can have a wider circle where you're having produce which is having higher shelf life and work. Everything can work along the platform. I don't think that there is a need for a different platform required, but for content creation and for interactions. You can create different windows for the different sections so that there would be much more intense communication and stakeholder consultation happening.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that. So we do have another question for Milagros that is a little bit builds on the previous one around the use of data and for policy planning and going scaling up. But this one is a little bit more specific and is asking how are you planning to capture and integrate the qualitative narratives of smaller actors alongside the quantitative procurement data sets, so that both qualitative narrative insights and the hard figures can inform decision-making and adjustments. So more around the qualitative aspects. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that question. And we're still thinking about that. So we have had a pilot trial this past year, and I'll put in the chat the website with our good food purchasing work, and specifically then the dashboard that has all the data. So we dipped our toes into trying to share some information. If you go to the dashboard, and we have different tabs. So there's a tab about workforce development, and that tab currently has like a story that highlights some non-for-profit organizations and some vendors and agencies that have excel in really advancing this labor-related metric. So this is one way that we are portraying this. We really hope that as we get a lot of different stories, we will be able to share this in, our presentations, our reports, but are just like really just waiting and see what is gonna come and how can we better share this information. I think right now with the new data vendor that we will have more capabilities to understand maybe like location or size that is still like data, but it's like data that we are getting from other sources. So something that we, after 6 years of doing this work, we are very aware of the burden that data collection can be. And we are really trying to streamline these processes. So for example, at the agency level, we're seeing like, are there any instances in which an agency would provide certain reports already? There's like for procurement, there's like the ordering stage, there's the stage of like invoicing the businesses, there's the stage of like doing some public reporting on expenses. So can we use any of these reports that the agencies are already doing and folding our data and requests? Similarly for the businesses, is like, what is the information flow look like between the government and the businesses? And can we make it easier for businesses to give us the data? So we are really in a process. We just finished a pilot project with this new data vendor and two agencies, Department of Homeless Services and Department for the Aging, that they are the most decentralized feeding programs because each agency, they don't cook their own meals. They hire non-for-profit organizations to run these homeless shelters or older adult centers. So we went through a process of engaging the non-for-profits, doing technical assistance and getting some of that information. So it is really a lot about building those relationships and understanding from the experiences on the ground who is doing phenomenal work that we definitely want to uplift to inspire others to follow through. So that long explanation to say we tried something, it's on our website, and we're going to continue to improve upon it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And unfortunately, I'm looking at the time, and the time has passed very quickly with these excellent presentations and very good discussions. So before we go to the concluding remarks, I would like to ask our three speakers to give us key take-home messages in 1 minute if you can. And while you're doing so, for Judith and Uni Krishnan, we have another question. So perhaps you can quickly respond to this question and then give one key takeaway message. So the question is telling again about the partnerships, and interesting to hear how partnerships and being part of networks are so important in case of New York City. And also in Kenya, we have heard about the involving different actors to combine data and evidence, decision-making and implementation. So Judith and Uni Krishnan, before giving a takeaway message, could you just say a few words very briefly on how our partnerships playing to support the quality, credibility, and the use of data in your cases? Judith, over to you.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'll emphasize that there's a big impact when we involve partners in implementing activities, because partnership is leveraging on the strengths of each and every partner. And we share, it's also a learning platform, a platform from where you can learn a lot and you can engage many other partners as you go along the implementation process. So my take home is that it would be very, very good if we all support the element of partnership and collaboration from national to the grassroots level in order to impact our communities, and also to assess what has gone wrong and what are these partnerships bringing, what new things are these partnerships bringing to the communities. So there is a big impact when we work in partnership. And thank you very much, FAO, for the opportunity to engage in this learning process. I've also learned a lot. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much also for this message. Uni Krishnan, over to you. The floor is yours.
Yeah, our partners have been basically the startup, the cooperative bank, and the farmers. The startup had brought the technology. The cooperative bank was, basically brought the credit for the farmers and was a key in terms of ensuring that around the livelihood program, we could improve the condition of the farmers and ensure that the transactions are put digitally. And the farmers, as producers, they provided the data and traceability and got the benefit from that. So that's how the partnership worked. Now, as far as the key message is concerned, number one, any innovative digital platform using data, make it simple, make it lean. These are the two key takeaways. And then third important factor is the lesson that is digitization will work only if you work on transactional data. Transactional data can be validated, and digitization will work when you use transactional data. These are the three principles that we have kept. Make it simple, make it lean, and then finally, digitization will work when you focus on transaction.
Thank you very much. Clear and the brief. Milagros, over to you for key takeaway messages. Thank you.
Sure. I would say really start small. Whether it is with like a few programs, a few agencies, a few early adopters, and a few data, some data is better than no data. And really like having something to share back both to the agencies, to the public, and to the businesses is huge. And that alone builds momentum. And going back to what Judy said about partnerships, I do think that is really important. So think about, everybody cares about food, everybody cares about supply chain, maybe from different angles. From E can be government efficiency, other folks can be health, nutrition, sustainability. But just really find those allies. A lot of times, again, budget constraints may now allow you to do everything you want, but once you're clear on what the purpose is and find partners, whether it is unions, when you're talking about workforce development, whether it is like advocates for local agriculture, whether it is, doctors, people that are really interested in shifts in diets, all of those will have something in common with you and may be able to bring in extra resources. So just be very clear about what you're trying to pursue and find those partners that are definitely out there.
Thank you. Thank you very much to all once again. And this brings us to the end of this session and the learning series. And I'm honored today to give the floor to Mr. Guido Acquaviva, Deputy Legal Counsel, for the concluding remarks. Guido, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Dubravka, and everybody. Good afternoon. Good morning and good evening to all of you. Today, it's the 24th of June, and as you might know, the General Assembly of the United Nations marked this day as the International Day of Women in Diplomacy. And this is a very fitting moment, I think, to reflect on how elevating each and every voice strengthens the governance of our agri-food system. It has been a privilege for us to accompany you through this third and final session of our Governance Learning Series. Over the past 2 hours, we have heard much about the power of inclusive data, of fair knowledge sharing, and systemic approaches to transform agri-food systems towards better production, better nutrition, better environment, and better life. A common thread running through every case today has been the vital role of co-design. We have seen that when data systems and digital platforms are built together through open multi-stakeholder dialogues, then everyone from small-scale food producers to women and youth truly has a say in the ways this informs decision-making. That kind of shared ownership is the foundation of fair and effective agri-food governance. I myself have direct experience in co-designing. I worked for a local government before joining FAO quite recently, and co-design is really an essential feature to design services that are close to the needs of the population. Indeed, I really strongly believe that public bodies need to be humble and to be able to listen to the needs and listen to the proposed solutions coming from the affected population, and assisting in the bottom-up approach as much as possible. The strengths of the stakeholders can best be harnessed this way, and this is really extremely important. It also requires specific dedicated resources. Let me now briefly zoom into each one of today's cases. First, the Kerala Food platform in India showcased what digital cooperativism looks like in practice. By transforming traditional offline cooperatives into a unified data-driven network, Kerala has unlocked insights that optimize supply chains, improve demand forecasting, and importantly, empower smallholder and farmers. These dashboards and analytics facilitate access to markets and strengthens farmers' voices and agency in every step of the value chain. The platform underscores the importance of clearly defining the three core dimensions of data rights: who holds ownership, the permissible uses of data, and the privacy safeguards that must be upheld. Leveraging data-driven insights can indeed be critical, and this case really provides a prime example of that. Second, the Dairy Innovation Platform in Kenya, coordinated by the Cooperative Alliance of Kenya under the Airtea project, has demonstrated the power of multi-stakeholder governance at scale. Shared knowledge and data flows are now elevating youth and women to decision-making fora. This project emphasizes the value of uniting diverse stakeholders to exchange knowledge and expertise. In the horizon, we see creating a federation of cooperatives in a process that involves the development and the operationalization of policies of both county and national level in this dairy sector. Finally, the New York City Food Purchasing Initiative has embedded value-based metrics directly into sustainable food procurement contracts. By measuring equity, sustainability, and nutrition outcomes, the transparent reporting systems hold each implementing agency and each supplier accountable to concrete goals. Legally, this approach hinges on well-crafted contract clauses and standards that ensure the respect for data reporting obligations. An executive order from 3 years ago, I understand, became an instrumental tool to make sure agencies comply with their commitments and allow for properly tracking and measuring progress. The presentation also clarified how important reliable data is to all of these projects. Together, these three cases demonstrate that inclusive data and equitable knowledge sharing can help unlock the potential for scalable, enduring transformation across agri-food systems. Let me turn now to what comes next and how we can build on everything we've learned across this series. First, in session 1, we laid the groundwork for unpacking inclusive governance mechanisms, from participatory policy design to advance agroecology in Argentina, to reducing child stunting in Ethiopia, to institutional innovation in Brazilian cities. Session 2 then showed us how shifting power to historically marginalized voices in Ecuador, in Ghana, in Mexico, brings those mechanisms to life. The focus of today, in my view, really completes this trilogy, focusing on data and knowledge. It is now more apparent than ever that without transparent, inclusive data and monitoring systems, even the best governance frameworks and voice-shifting efforts can fall short and will fall short. Continuous adaptation, iteration, and learning ensure that governance frameworks, empowerment initiatives, and data systems remain aligned and responsive to real-world challenges, addressing root causes and not just merely treating symptoms. At its heart, this series has shown that effective agri-food system transformation requires both technical and institutional innovation to foster multi-stakeholder governance mechanisms that are accelerating sustainable change. This is key because only through such inclusive processes can we effectively navigate complex trade-offs. This is the way to build the coalitions needed to sustain them and ensure that policies, programs, investments, and technologies reinforce each other rather than working at cross purposes. It is precisely for this reason that the role of honest brokers, dialogue facilitators, and conveners like FAO, who can bridge differences, arbitrate compromises, and facilitate cross-learning, is more critical than ever. I think the series also brought to light another key insight. While policy and legal frameworks are necessary tools for change, they are not sufficient on their own. Transformational change takes time. It requires gradually aligning institutional mechanisms with technical challenges, all the while staying grounded in political realities. This is the reason why I invite you to translate our collective learning into action by systematically integrating governance and legal analysis into all programs and projects. Policies change, but for a sustainable shift, we need legal and governance reform based on data and on co-design activities. So programs and project cycles should include this governance and legal analysis. Of course, I'm a lawyer, I'm bound to say that, but all the time, we feel that this can create added value. Even though this is the final session of our series, I think this marks only a milestone in a path, not an end point, and our conversation needs to continue. Thank you very much to our speakers, moderator, and to all of you for your engagement, your questions, and your commitment throughout this series. We really look forward to continuing our dialogue and turning these insights into action. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Guido, for your insights and the words about what has been, I think, a powerful, honest, and much needed conversation that we had along these 3 webinars and during this, since the beginning of the year, during this learning series. So on behalf of the entire organizing team, let me extend once again our heartfelt thanks to all of today's speakers, but also to those from the previous sessions, and in particular our speakers from Ghana, Ethiopia, and Argentina that we had with us also today, for all the energy, insights, and inspiration that you have brought to this journey that focused on fundamental topic, governance for agri-food systems transformation. Across all 3 sessions and through the voices and experiences of our speakers, you reminded us of something that we do not say very often. Agri-food systems are not just a technical issue, but also deeply a governance and political one. Political economy factors, balancing of different objectives and interests, strengthening partnerships, coordination, political support from public institutions, transparency in data information, and above all, connecting and giving voice to farmers and consumers are what ultimately makes things happen on the ground, as we all know very well. So my colleagues now will be sharing the evaluation form of this session in the chat, and I would like to kindly invite you all to fill it in immediately if you can. But if not, we will be sharing the recording of this session and also this evaluation and all the information that our speakers have kindly shared with us through emails, so you can have it again. And I really hope you enjoyed today's discussion. And as it has been said, it is not the end, although it is the end of this learning session. But we do hope that you will continue providing us feedback. So you will find also in the chat, and we will be sharing it in the email, our address, and also you can refer the link to the web page where you can find all the recordings of all the 3 sessions, all the learning materials that have been shared by different panelists from different countries. And we invite you all to continue, give us feedback, and to stay in touch on this important topic. Thanks again, and wishing you all a wonderful day.